समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Today is a day of commemoration. It is a day to remember not just the victims of the 26/11 terror attacks, but also to honor the heroes who gave their lives to keep the rest of us safe. But it's also a day to take stock. India's security challenges come from multiple directions. There is always a challenge from China. Their latest is a brazen claim on Arunachal Pradesh. There is now hostility and friction with Bangladesh. And there is, of course, terrorism from Pakistan. Most recently, we have seen the Delhi blasts, where a 26/11 style module was actually underway when it was busted. The plan was once again to target different Indian cities. And some say the explosives recovered in time by the police in an operation first uncovered by the Jammu and Kashmir police was enough for 20 blasts. It is a somber day, and it is also a day when in Pakistan there are rumors swirling and questions being asked about where the former Prime Minister Imran Khan is. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, a day of commemoration, of remembering, of never forgetting the 26/11 anniversary, a reminder of India's battle against terrorism, a day to remember the victims, their families, and the brave hearts who stood between the terrorists and much larger destruction and devastation than we saw in 26/11. But it's also a reminder that these attempts have not gone away. India has learned much has changed. But as the Delhi blasts testify, the ecosystem that enables terrorism and the hostile adversaries that continue to try and plot terrorism and use it as an instrument of state policy against India continue to make their attempts. It's been a year of the Delhi blasts. It's also been a year of the Pahalgam blasts. It's been a year of Operation Sindoor. It's been a year of learning, reassessing, and regrouping. And as these images remind us on our screen, we have learned a lot, but there's a lot more to learn as well. It's also a day when in Pakistan, across the border, there are rumors swirling. The former ousted Prime Minister Imran Khan, his supporters, his sisters are demanding to know where he is, as Afghanistan media reported, and there is no official confirmation or independent authentication of this, that he may have in fact been taken out, been killed in prison. Once again, I want to say this is only being reported by Afghanistan media, and his family and his supporters have been protesting outside the jail where he's been imprisoned by the Pakistan military, demanding proof of his well-being. On this somber day, on this day when we remind ourselves of multiple challenges, let me introduce three very distinguished guests. A day of remembrance, a day of learning, but also a day of looking at our security challenges that come from multiple directions. I want to introduce our guest. General Satish Dua is with us, former General Officer Commanding of the 15 Corps in the Kashmir Valley, the general who led the first surgical strikes after the Uri terror attack. Always a pleasure, sir. Also joining us is Yashovardhan Azad, one of our most respected IPS officers who's also served in the Intelligence Bureau, a well-respected thinking mind on security affairs. Good to see you, Mr. Azad. And of course, I want to welcome Sushant Sareen, probably the bluntest strategic affair expert that we have, who doesn't pull his punches, especially when talking about Pakistan and Asim Munir. I welcome all of you to the program on this somber day. I'll start with you, Sushant, before I come to General Dua and Yasho Azad. Pakistan hasn't changed. India has changed, but Pakistan hasn't changed. on a day when it's a day of remembrance, but we're just emerging from the shadows of the Delhi blast, and we actually do not yet have full knowledge of who all, enabled that terror module that was busted in Faridabad. Where do we stand vis-a-vis our security challenges? Again, I remind you that we're talking hours after China lays a brazen claim on Arunachal Pradesh. We know the volatility and the hostility in Pakistan, and we know the friction with Bangladesh. Sushant.
So, Barkha, I think as far as the internal security is concerned, we are far better placed today than what we were maybe 17 years back when the 26/11 attacks happened. I think a lot of changes have come about. There's far better coordination. The intelligence flow is much better. Uh, I think the intelligence services and the police is much better equipped today than it was 17 years back. So yes, I think there have been a lot of improvements. Have we covered all our bases? Far from it. I think some of the good steps that were taken immediately after 26/11, for example, they had this patrolling boats in Mumbai and stuff like that, uh, which could have been even used for anti-smuggling operations to some extent. There are now reports that the state government has been pretty lax in equipping them, maintaining that particular those police stations. I forget the exact term, coastal police stations or whatever it was called. So that is standard Indian way of doing things. So yes, things have improved, but it is very important, and General Dua sitting out here. Uh, very often militaries are accused of always preparing to fight the last war better. I think it is very important that when we are talking about terrorism, or for that matter, even military affairs now, you should not be looking at what happened in the last war. You should be looking at what happened in the next war, or what is likely to happen in the next war. What are the new
Maybe Sushant there, but I think let me pick up that last point that he made and take it to you, General Dua. Sushant was saying that today, in fact, our security doctrine
the
says that there will be. Sushant, we lost you briefly. Are you back? We
yeah,
lost
I
you
am.
briefly. You want to complete your point? Yeah, and then I'll come to General Dua. Yeah.
Yeah, so my point is that, rather than preparing for what happened in the past, I think the past is for commemoration, the future is for preparation. And I think what we need to do is anticipate. Very often we have seen that, we never anticipate where or what the next attack could be. And the moment you lose the sense of anticipation, then you tend to open up certain gaps in how things might happen. I think that is something we need to work towards. Um,
Yeah.
and yes, what has happened on 26/11, I agree with all of those who say never forgive and never forget.
General Dua, let me take this point to you. I think also with the changed security doctrine, and it actually began with the surgical strikes that you led in response to the Uri terror attack, there is now no distinction between counter-terrorism and military response. This is something that is important to understand. In the sense, what I mean is, a terror attack could well lead to a military response. We saw it in Operation Sindoor as a response to Pahalgam. I'm not saying it has to happen every time, but I'm saying it is certainly an available option in the sort of arsenal of responses. When you look at that time, from that time when you led the surgical strikes to now, what have we learned? We're dealing with a very, very hostile, immediate sort of neighborhood. We're seeing a rapprochement between Pakistan and Bangladesh. We are seeing China, where we have begun a reconciliation process, but a young woman gets detained in Shanghai for 18 hours. She speaks out as a proud Indian, including on our channel. And, China says, hey, Arunachal Pradesh, we don't even recognize it as part of India. So this is the security environment as we talk on 26/11. Over to you. When Sushant says, don't look at the last war, look at where the next one could come from and what that might look like. What would you say?
Barkha, there is no denying the fact that today an internal challenge, an external challenge, challenge on the borders, challenge across, the new dimension frontiers of cyber and space or information cognitive warfare. All these challenges are merging. So, you can't say that one is different from the other, or the military is meant for one particular challenge, because on one hand, like I said, all challenges are merging, and we have to be prepared for the next evolution of the challenge. On the other hand, we have challenges from the challenges to our border, to our sovereignty, are from different other countries, our adversaries. Look at Pakistan. Now, Pakistan is, we used to say the Pakistan military is a state within a state. And today I read Ajay Bisaria's editorial in Times of India. He said it is not a state within a state, it is a state itself. So there the military is using, it's not non-state actors. They are using terrorism and allied dimensions as a state policy, as an instrument of state. So when we are seeing this, I think the military has to respond to both at the same time. When we look at infiltration or operations, terrorist counter-terrorism operations in the depth, they are all merging, and so is the force and the instruments to deal with them. You mentioned about how Pakistan's nexus with Bangladesh is growing. Sure, we are seeing a very belligerent Bangladesh, which is not friendly anymore. And the way we are seeing things happening between Pakistan and Bangladesh is a dangerous portent for us. You mentioned China. For the moment, that's another thing. We can never take our eye off the ball. But today's discussion, I will keep it confined here to these challenges. Now, what has happened overall in the last few years, a decade or more, when we had surgical strikes 9 years ago, was the fact that we actually went across. We became proactive after Pathankot, after Uri. That all happened in the same year. And like you rightly said, we have to be prepared for a full-fledged military response. In 2016, Pakistan could not launch a full-fledged response or a bigger response, and same thing happened in Balakot. But in Operation Sindoor, we saw how it actually went out of control. I won't say out of control, but how it escalated for a couple of days. But then again, we brought sort of China, I beg your pardon, Pakistan had to come to the table and ask for this thing. So the last thing I would like to say is, now we have to be prepared. We hope for the best, but we have to be prepared for the worst. And that is going to come in every form. It is going to be in the space dimensions, drone, AI, terrorism. What we are seeing now, this white-collar terrorism, is an evolution of their own terror tactics. I mean, they started off with covering their face, then they came on the Facebook, they started using stone pelting as something that helped terrorists escape. Where earlier they used to put their children away when the security we entered when we were younger officers, but today when I was a corps commander, I see them rushing to meet the security forces, to pelt them with stones and help terrorists escape, to hybrid terrorists, to now white-collar terrorism. So we also have to evolve with this. And the last sentence I would like to say, in this evolving with this state responses to terrorism, we need to take up de-radicalization and this, overall watch, whether it is a watch of the campus, watch of the WhatsApp group, wherever we hear some noises like this, wherever we hear some inflammatory speeches, we must nip it in the bud rather than let it go out of control first.
Yeah. Let me bring in Yashovardhan Azad. Let me read out a comment in our audience stream. Prasad says, as Sushant said, anticipate. We need strong human intelligence and surveillance that is proactive. We should also stop the kid-like celebration of unknown men. He's talking about how, unknown men may have taken out targets in Pakistan, but be discreet like the Mossad. This is somebody in our audience. I thought the comment was interesting. Prasad is a regular viewer. Mr. Azad, do respond.
Well, let me say your initial point about how things have changed from 26/11 to 10/11. I think there's a very important point that earlier on, yes, it was a spate of reactions, and now it's turned to preparedness, in the sense that one is in anticipation, and in anticipation we have overhauled our institutional architecture. I mean, there are many things which we have done, whether it's the multi-agency center, whether it's the NSG giving a complete authorization, whether it's the NAT grade, so many things. And then there is a tremendous technological upgrade, whether it's the AI-enabled control rooms, whether it's the SWAT teams. So in a way, I would say that we can attribute our counter-terror successes also, where we recount our failures, one or two. Terrorism and the forms have certainly mutated. I mean, as General Dua said, and even Sushant alluded to that. Yes, it has changed from attacking, coming across, and feline shots to now educated kind of terrorism. So things have certainly changed. Political changes have been there, but we have a much bigger challenge now. It is the cyber and information warfare. It is radicalization. And I would say certain things which have not changed is the community interface. That's very, very important, because de-radicalization is not only the job of the forces. De-radicalization is also a job of the community, of the various institutions. And that is a very, very important thing. And the last, as I always maintain, is the Kashmir factor, the nerve center from everything emanates, where I think, yes, you need political stability and need to give back the political space and freedom to the people. Now, regarding the other question, which
can I ask you something on that? Because I know Sushant and General Dua will have responses on this issue of de-radicalization and the space that you talk about within the Kashmir Valley. I think that there are two narratives on Kashmir and both are flawed. One that is too politically correct and woke and ignores the fact that there is religious radicalism, and we've seen it driving the Delhi blast. And the other is, let's vilify every single Muslim, let's vilify every single Kashmiri. In my opinion, both of these generalized narratives, one which is driven by politically correct denialism, the other which is a broad stroke of all people, so that you forget, for example, the Jammu and Kashmir police is at the front line, also Kashmiri, fighting terrorists from within their own people. So when you say give back the space, what specifically do you mean, Mr. Azad? Because I know Sushant and General Dua will have responses to this.
Clear views on this. And I say that in any government, it should be the elected government should be in charge of security. It is the elected government we should face all the security challenges and also take the responsibility. That is the dictum in a democracy. It sort of maintains the institutional architecture. And I also maintain that Article 370 had nothing to do with terrorism. Neither did it promote terrorism, nor the removal of Article 70 would have, expected to have, changed the face of terrorism. And therefore, whether it is I am not interested in whether every Muslim is a terrorism or not. This is not my issue. My issue is de-radicalization should start in colleges, in all the institutions, and in that the society should take part. The army has been doing a brilliant job. The police has been doing a job. The intelligence agencies are doing a job. But if a society keeps silent and does not speak, like in Faridabad, that means their culpability is also there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, which is why I think the political, I don't know whether to call it politically correct or denialism or deluded. There cannot be denialism about this, but equally in this environment, Sushant, when Mr. Azad says, Yasho says, give back space in Kashmir, make the state government accountable, make the Omar Abdullah government in this case accountable for what's happening when looked at through a security lens. What would you say, Sushant?
Okay, I'll come to what Mr. Azad said. Just one thing which I wanted to add earlier on, and I think it's very important. When we talk about preparations, I think one of my colleagues also mentioned it right now. Yes, the police and the security services have been, they've got the kind of stuff they need. Perhaps more needs to come. But I think at the societal level also there needs to be a certain consciousness. So, for example, Barkha, simple thing which you see in all Western countries. There are drills which are held. Malls have drills. Apartment buildings have drills. Schools have drills that in the event of an emergency, how are people going to behave? It might be there on paper. Nobody practices it. So I think we need to sensitize people on certain things which at a at the level of the population, general population, which we need to do so that we are better prepared in the event of a terror attack or a terror strike, right? But coming back to what Mr. Azad is saying, in fact, I agree with him. Uh, and I don't think you can make Umar Abdullah accountable without giving him the responsibility for the security, which has not been given to him. I personally think that now that you have an elected government in Jammu and Kashmir, even though with somewhat limited powers, they don't have the power of the security issues. They don't have the police under them. There are a couple of other restrictions on them. Even then, I would imagine that it is important that there is a very close coordination between the elected government and the local law enforcement agencies until the responsibility can entirely be given back to the state or the UT government. There has to be that, so that these people feel that they have a stake in ensuring security. Otherwise, frankly, I think Umar Abdullah, although he hasn't washed his hands off, he is entirely entitled to say that, look, I am not in charge of this. You guys are in charge of it. Why are you pointing fingers at me? So I think it is important to take them into the loop, coordinate very closely with them, because the whole idea, Barkha, of getting a political government in place is to use the political processes to bring about certain changes in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, in the past, that political process hasn't exactly worked the way it was envisaged. But that is not the reason to complain and say that we are not going to, bring the politicians back into the thing. So I would go ahead with him, and I would say that the LG and that entire paraphernalia needs to step back. It should be there as a kind of a guardrail. With all the powers they have, they can act as a guardrail to the elected government. They cannot act as a parallel authority to the elected government. They should not act. Even if they have the powers, I think the elected government should be given the kind of responsibility that they can then exercise and be held accountable. The LG doing it, I think a lot of serious questions are being raised, including about all kinds of hanky-panky which is going on under that particular office or people associated with that office. And I think this is something which even people in the center need to look at very, very carefully, because otherwise all the good stuff that has happened in Kashmir can very simply be frittered away if you're not careful enough of how you handle the politics of the place.
Okay, General Dua, do you agree that to that extent a certain degree of political autonomy and therefore accountability? Like, I like the point that Sushant makes, that you can't criticize the government or hold them accountable for anything if they simply do not even have the authority to operate, and that actually gives them an opportunity to say this has nothing to do with us. And how do you see the road ahead? And when you see this de-radicalization, I know the army has actually been running de-radicalization programs in Kashmir well before the rest of the country even understood that this is an important word and concept. Your response?
Barkha, I agree that army has been trying to do its bit in de-radicalization. The police has been trying to do its bit. And but before that, allow me 30 seconds to talk about a point that you raised, and I'll come back to this. You spoke about how every Kashmiri is not a terrorist, or every Muslim, Kashmiri Muslim should not be taken as a
and
terrorist.
equally religious radicalism and Islamism is real. I'm saying both of these things are true.
Both.
These
So
are
we
both
have to,
simultaneous truths.
exactly. And I've written 3 books. In my second book, I write about this particular aspect, where I write about the fact that if I was at pains to explain to everyone when I was in Kashmir that every Muslim with a beard is not a terrorist, just like every soldier with an AK rifle is not your enemy. The point I'm trying to make, like Azad said, the police has been doing a great job. So the Jammu Kashmir police is great. I come from Jackal Regiment. 50% of my soldiers are Muslims, and they are no less brave than anyone else. In fact, they have more awards, and they are sons of the soil who fight in their own country. It's a very risky thing for them to do. So we must not paint everyone with one brush. But yes, coming back to your point, De-radicalization, especially, is something which requires not an all of government approach. It requires a whole of society approach, whole of nation approach, and I'll like to expand on that. When we say de-radicalization, perhaps we think of measures like getting moderate clerics to come and engage with the community, make sure that we plant the right stories in the young impressionable minds in schools and colleges. We also keep a watch on such groups in campuses, in schools, in colleges, in WhatsApp groups, in other places. So this requires a whole of government, whole of society approach. The community outreach has to be there, and the involvement of civil society has to be there. And to that extent, when we talk of all this, I agree with Sushant saying that I think it's time that we must give the government, the state, the J&K government more of a say. I mean, even in law and orders, you can't have compartmentalized thing. I mean, we've done it for so long, and we have to give them a chance. If you want an integrated approach, it can only come about by everyone's involvement in this. You look at the other examples. When you look at the examples of Ireland, you look at the examples of Singapore, Malaysia, they could overcome such vexed problems only when there was a community outreach and involvement of civil society. And last thing, closer home, Mizoram and Punjab were also solved only because of civil society involvement. And we have such good examples to follow. So we need to do that. By just saying that, oh no, we will not do this to J&K or Kashmir, it won't work. We will have to give it a chance. It's been 6 years now since Article 6 years ever since Article 370 and the Union Territory came into being. So I think we need to take measures from that point of view.
But here's a question, and before Mr. Azad responds, since all of you have spoken about, or the fact that de-radicalization is very important, but in the end, there has to be people. It has to be a people-driven also change. Mr. Azad, I want to play out a statement that went quite viral this week. Shah Rukh Khan standing up in Mumbai at a function organized actually by the Chief Minister's wife, Amrita Fadnavis, speaking on terrorism. I thought this was quite interesting in the context of what we're talking. I'll play that out, but I have a question after that. When you all say, it's been 6 years since 370, we need to look at Kashmir, we need to look at political space. Here is the problem for any government. After the Delhi blast, when there has been an outing of this network of Kashmiri doctors, when there has been an Al-Falah University on the outskirts of the national capital functioning without, I had never even heard of this university, right? Functioning almost like a university for terrorism. The space shrinks for anyone to take a civil society initiative. The space shrinks, the public opinion, the public support for it shrinks. And that is a challenge. I'm going to play out the statement by Shah Rukh Khan and then come back to you, Mr. Azad, and then go around the panel. Take a look.
26/11 पहलगाम आतंकी हमला और हाल ही में हुए दिल्ली ब्लास्ट में अपने प्राणों की आहुति देने वाले बेगुनाह लोगों को मेरी विनम्र श्रद्धांजलि। और इन हमलों में शहादत पाने वाले हमारे वीर सुरक्षा कर्मियों को मेरा सादर नमन। आज देश के बहादुर सिपाहियों और जवानों के लिए मुझे कहा गया है ये 4 लाइनें कहना जो बहुत ही खूबसूरत हैं, तो ध्यान से सुनिएगा प्लीज। जब कोई पूछे तुमसे कि क्या करते हो, जब कोई पूछे तुमसे कि क्या करते हो, तो सीना ठोक कर कहना मैं देश की रक्षा करता हूं। पूछे अगर कोई कि कितना कमा लेते हो, हल्के से मुस्कुरा कर कहना 140 करोड़ लोगों की दुआएं कमा लेता हूं। और अगर मुड़कर फिर भी पूछे तुमसे कि कभी डर नहीं लगता, तो आंख से आंख मिलाकर कहना जो हम पे हमला करते हैं उनको लगता है।
Powerful words there, powerful messaging. Let's come to you, Yashwazad, to pick up what we were talking about. In principle, Sushant, you, General Dua, political process, give the elected government more authority, give them more say, de-radicalization, and then you'll have hardened positions that were already skeptical hardening further. When you see this network of doctors, Dr. Umar Muhammad, Dr. Ganai, and others, when you see a university right under our noses, some might argue, on the outskirts of the national capital, किसी को पता ही नहीं. I mean, I don't know if you'd ever heard of this Al Falah. I had never heard of it. It is 1 hour from where I live, less that. How do you then create public opinion that is ready to back any political initiative?
Two things. One, I, of course, expected Shah Rukh to be more direct in condemnation of also the perpetrators. These are beautiful lines, beautiful soft lines are spoken by politicians, spoken by many people. But I feel there should be a direct, strong condemnation coming from society leaders like Shah Rukh of all religions. That's number one. Number two, one of the problems, there are two problems related to Al Falah. One is, of course, and this is a point which Sushant and I brought in an earlier discussion, where we said, first of all such universities, like Al Falah, unknown, manned by politicians or patronized by somebody, some businessmen, they're all dens of corruption. And there is no institutional oversight. That is a biggest problem. If there is any kind of institutional oversight, most of this rationalization will take place and most of these activities cannot go on just like this. For example, the misuse of labs. For this, you don't even need any kind of a community mobilization. All you need is better governance. That's number one. Number two is, this also in a way points out at a lack of community interface, because ultimately somebody, a police constable or a revenue officer or a deputy collector, somebody who's interacting with the university or with the boys should have got some whiff of information. Third, the intelligence also did not get any kind of information like this. So what I'm saying is, definitely the society, that means the society far removed from Al Falah in other places, will condemn. But the point is, the one who are around, the one who are near, the institutional people, the doctors around, they are the ones who are supposed to intervene. And that is what
the point that I'm making is that without that, if, for example, Al Falah had been exposed from within Al Falah, I think it would have been much easier to say, to talk about the political space that you talk about. But when you see no such exposure without this Faridabad terror module being busted, then, everybody hardens on a political space. And that is the challenge of radicalism, of counter-terrorism. General Dua, Sushant, if you want to add to it. General Dua, I'll start with you. Yeah.
Yes, Barkha, I think this issue of what I mentioned earlier also, that we need to keep a watch. We need to learn from the Arab Spring. We need to learn from the Gen Z revolts that are happening in neighboring countries and other places. That I said, we need to keep a watch on every discussion group. I mean, that's where intelligence agencies will have to widen their network. It doesn't mean posting people in every institution or every WhatsApp group. There are other ways of doing it. And we can't go into it over here. We need to keep a watch if we hear such voices. And let me now bring it in concert with what I was talking about, the involvement of civil society. The civil society, for instance, we always hear announcements or see signs written at railway stations or at airports that if you see any suspicious act, something lying around suspiciously unclaimed, report it to authorities. In a similar analogy, today is the time when if you see something suspicious happening, someone inciting a speech, even a talk of 4 people on a nukkad, when if it is insightful, it needs to be reported. If you have a tenant, you must carry out a very proper due diligence, a verification, etc. So what I'm trying to say, the civil society will have to get more involved, because these hybrid terrorists, these white collar terrorism, they all live in the same society. They merge. It's far more difficult to distinguish them. On the LOC, you take an infiltrator as a terrorist and take him down. But here, how do you do it? A doctor is a respected man. So what we need to do, the community involvement, that is why the civil society involvement has to be increased. Just as the intelligence agencies and everyone else must step up, so should civil society step up. And we have to empower them. We have to train them. We have to bring, like Sushant said, more drills to be carried out. Similarly, more messages should go out to them as to how they should behave if they hear some voices which are discordant, and how they must be reported.
I think this point, Sushant, that the hybrid white collar terrorist is much tougher to actually first catch and uncover than the infiltrator at the line of control is a really important one. And you have to do it within norms. You know, as has been said, it doesn't mean that you place a sort of, a spy in every institution. And that's the point Yasho is making, that at some point, the people have to be invested enough in revealing that this is happening under our nose, it's happening in our neighborhood, it's happening next door. We think there's something suspicious, but it's tough. It is tougher, General Dua says, than fighting an infiltrator at the LOC.
Look, there are of course complications in it, and frankly, I hate to say this, but let me say it. There is also a lot of viciousness in society. We've seen in other terrorist theaters where if Barkha, I have an enmity with you, I will go to the Americans and say, bomb Barkha's house, right? She's a terrorist attached to such and such terror groups. Something similar happens out here. Yashovardhan Azad is a police officer. He knows it. And as a journalist, Barkha, you should be aware that every time a police complaint is made, it's not necessarily that the complainant is telling the truth, right? Very often there are fake complaints which are made to fix your neighbors or your enemies or your adversaries, whatever. So you have to be very careful if you're setting in motion some kind of a way where people can come and report. The person who's receiving the report should not be using it as a way to extort money out of somebody else. Secondly, I think it is also important, and this is on the lighter side, and I remember this is a published news. I probably happened after 26/11 or maybe after 9/11, I'm not sure where, but suddenly there was a report of the cops having arrested two Muslim men from the airport because somebody had complained about them that they are talking about missiles being brought into India. The two guys were speaking in Urdu and saying कि वो जो आ रहे हैं वो अपने साथ अपनी मिसाइल लेके आ रहे हैं. Missile means problems. वो missile लेके आ रहे हैं. Somebody heard it as missiles and complained to the cops, and the cops arrested the guy. So you need to be a little careful on how these things work.
Yes,
Finally, Madhya, on this whole thing of political space shrinking because of the Red Fort blast, I think again we need to be very careful. Don't blame it on not or don't use it as an excuse for not bringing the elected government in Jammu and Kashmir on the issue of security. Bring them into the loop on security. Don't use it as an excuse to not bring them in. Because like I said, this cell operated in the last 3 or 4 years, not under Omar Abdullah's watch, right? This cell has operated or has come into being around the time when the constitutional reforms have taken place in Jammu and Kashmir. So please don't blame the elected people in Jammu and Kashmir for what has happened, and don't use it as an excuse. One. Secondly, like I said, the current political system which is there has the guardrails with the LG's office. The LG can function as a kind of a guardrail to ensure that there is no hanky-panky which is done by elected leaders, which will happen because elected leaders will interfere in policing. They have to do it. That is the way, that Thana Kachari culture that we have out here. That is bound to happen. But the LG's office can act as a guardrail. But the LG's office should leave a lot of the responsibility for managing the security issues to the elected government. Let the police system not be under the elected government, but let the elected government have some degree of control or influence over what these guys are doing. So you can marry the two until you are ready to completely devolve that function back to the elected government. So some via media can be found out if you want to find it out. And I think you need to move in that direction because, at the end of the day, what is the point of having elections in Jammu and Kashmir and then not trusting the elected representatives of the people with the kind of responsibilities which they should be discharging anyways?
Yeah. All right. In the end, I do want to turn attention specifically to Pakistan. Not just because that's where Ajmal Kasab came from, not just because the Jaish imprint investigators believe is all over the Delhi blast, but also because of rumors that are swirling in Pakistan over the whereabouts of Imran Khan. Uh, Afghanistan media reported earlier today that Mr. Khan has been killed in prison. There is no official independent confirmation of this news, but rumors took on a life of their own. Protesters are now outside the jail where Mr. Khan is housed, demanding proof of life. His sisters have been protesting. They have been giving statements. And we simply do not know where Mr. Khan is. This would add one more dimension to Pakistan, whereas General Dua mentioned, quoting Ajay Bisaria, the ISI and the army is not a state within a state, but is the state. Yasho Azad, I'll start with you. I mean, we don't have enough information, but Pakistan, terror attacks yesterday within Pakistan, terror as an instrument of state policy against India, we all know. Khan in jail, once the golden poster boy of the Pakistan military. His family is now saying, give us proof of life. Protesters are now saying, give us proof of life. Afghanistan media, hostile to Pakistan, saying, we don't think he's alive. And again, these are rumors, but protesters are now saying, give us proof of life.
Let me say at the very outset that anything can happen in Pakistan. And as Shushant was telling me just now, and General Dua, I'll never forget this statement that ISI is the biggest political force in the world. So it's capable of anything. I mean, in Atop jail, all the ex-prime ministers have had the privilege of living there and then going into exile. Now, I do feel that they will not take this upon themselves to hit Imran Khan. But there is a reason, because he's not allowed to meet anybody. Nobody knows anything about him. So it's a kind of a habeas corpus call. And that is why they are asking for proof of life. Personally, I would say that it has emanated from Afghanistan. So it has come from an interested area, one area which is, totally arraigned against Pakistan. So I would sort of surmise, that it could be a kind of a rumor.
Indeed, it could well be a rumor, but Sushant, we were discussing before the show began that the rumor has acquired legs. And by the way, there have been these rumors before, they've been false because nothing has been seen or heard of him, from him in a while. His own family is on the streets saying we simply don't know where he is.
Pakistan, or at least in Islamabad, it is said there are no rumors in Islamabad. There are only premature facts. So now everybody has to die one day. So maybe this is a premature fact. Maybe this is a fact. Who knows? I'd be a little surprised. But look, if, for example, something untoward was to happen to Imran Khan, and remember, he's not a young man, right? He might still look younger than me, although he's much older than me. He probably looks like 40 years old. I'd love to look like him. But the fact of the matter remains that he is what? On the wrong side of 70s, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he's not a young man, right? And at that age, anything can happen, really. Okay. So, but the thing is that if in custody, even if he was to die a natural death, I don't think anybody in Pakistan will believe it. The kind of lack of trust, the kind of suspicion, the kind of uncertainty which is there in Pakistan, nobody will take, regardless of somebody swearing, going to the Kaaba and swearing that they had nothing to do with anything untoward happening to Imran Khan, nobody will buy it. So I think the military authorities will be extremely careful to ensure that nothing happens to Imran Khan. But if in the event something has happened, and one of the reasons why these rumors are swirling around, and Mr. Azad spoke about it, for weeks now, nobody is being allowed to meet Imran Khan. His family members are not, his sisters who would meet him regularly are not being allowed to meet him. I think even his lawyers have not been allowed to meet him. The chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been, I think, refused 7 or 8 times. This is despite court orders. So much for the legal system in Pakistan and the freedom of the judiciary and all of that. The judges ordering that the meeting be organized. the local cops out there and the jail authorities have refused to allow the chief minister of KP to meet Imran Khan, right? So obviously, either something untoward has happened, or like Mr. Azad is saying that this is a habeas corpus petition. Ki bhai, if all is well with Imran Khan, show us the body, show us the man, right? So it's probably that, but there is always a chance that, it is the guy is no longer there. Who knows?
Yeah, as we said, in Pakistan, anything can happen. Janal Dua, before I give you the last word, one of our viewers, Saurabh, says mysterious deaths and sanctioned assassinations of their own leaders are par for the course in Pakistan. The Pakistan army has the last word and the last laugh in Pakistan, and Imran Khan could have been clean bowled. Except for the fact that, as everybody has pointed out here, it doesn't suit the Pakistan military. It doesn't suit them. It's fine to have him languishing in jail in solitary confinement years on end. Why kill him and have him be made into a hero? And he's already an extremely popular person, in a large section of the Pakistani public, probably the most popular civilian today, once the poster boy of the Pakistan military. Last word to you, sir.
I'll pick up from where you left. Yes, he is an extremely popular man, and all the political leaders in Pakistan have either been politicians or military generals turned politicians. Here is a man who was a hero. We've grown up seeing him play, and all of across the continent, everyone, we admired him as a cricket sports star. He was a rock star. So he has been an icon all through, and with now political popularity, I think no one else has had that kind of popularity that Imran Khan seems to enjoy today. So it is in their interest, the state's interest, to make sure, the army's interest, to actually that nothing happens to him, like everyone else has also said.
Yeah.
Because it will become a rallying point. And today, if there is any threat to the Pakistan army, I'm saying it deliberately, I'm saying that slowly, if there is any threat to Pakistan army, it is from the Gen Z. It will happen. If it happens, it will happen from the youth. It will happen like a revolt. And let's not say that I know military is very powerful, but so in many countries, things have happened like this. And 2 years ago, we saw the army, the public break into the house of the corps commander in Lahore and many military establishments. And so we've seen those things happen. So let's also remember, like, if today the rumor of such news has got a protest breaking, or people have started collecting and demanding things, anything like this is going to be a very difficult thing to handle. That then the legal amendments or 27th Amendment, etc., might not help. There'll be a very different scene to play.
Well, either way, it is, as I said, a volatile, hostile neighborhood. Pakistan has always been hostile. Different challenges with China, friction with Bangladesh, the challenge of radicalism at home. Much learned from 26/11, much to learn. And as all three of our distinguished guests have pointed out, the change also has to begin with us. Sushant, you want to add a line? Sushant, yeah? Sushant. Hang on. Yeah, Sushant.
Be prepared for being massively trolled by the Pakistanis if nothing has happened to Imran Khan. Because you are on their target list now, you're on the hit list. So they are going to come after you. Vengeance if nothing has happened. So be prepared for that. Just issue a warning to you.
No, that's a good warning, because in any case, I'm literally blocking Pakistani social media handles every day in the dozens. So they've been at it since Operation Sindoor. Sorry, Sushant was saying?
I said in any case, you're used to getting trolled.
Yes, proudly trolled by the Pakistanis at least. Wear it as a badge of honor. Thank you so much to Sushant Sareen, Yashwardhan Azad, and General Dua. It's been a pleasure learning from all of you. Thank you so much. Take care. See you all soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.